Hey, good morning, YouTube. This is Brian, and I am on my wild Wanderlodge tour of the United States. So, no, I'm in the process of shopping for a Wanderlodge. If you want to know what that's about, check out my other videos. This video will drop a few days from when it's made. They are being uploaded when I'm in the hotel at night, but I'm just sort of holding back because I just am. It doesn't matter if it releases this week or next week. So yesterday I did my second look at the FC35 in Florida and decided that there was just too much going on with that bus, so I walked away from it. I think it's a good bus. I really do. I think for somebody in that region, it'd be a great parts coach. It would take a lot of work to get it back on the road, but I think you can make a good deal with that seller. There is a video walkthrough of that coach, so if you're looking for a Wanderlodge, check out that video. If you want to get in touch with that guy, send me a message and I will put you in touch with that guy, because he really does want it gone, and he's a nice guy. So, you know, I left there at like, I don't know, 10:30, 10 o'clock, something like that. Headed north. I'm headed to Ohio. Friend of mine that runs Perpetual, I think it's Perpetual Motion is his handle on YouTube. His name's Andrew. Great guy. Has a Wanderlodge, has a parts coach. Talked to him a little bit on the phone last week, and he was saying, you know, he had gone out 6 months ago to look at these coaches that I'm going to look at, and I haven't really talked to the seller. I've texted back and forth a little bit. This is kind of fucking crazy. I've sent maybe a dozen messages on Facebook, and I'm driving 12 hours north from 12 hours away from my house. It's an 18-hour trip back to Houston, so this is a big roll of the dice to see if there's a bus here that'll work for my vision. And I'm really interested in the short bus that he's got. It's either a 31 or 33. I will know in, 5 hours or so what it is. Fingers crossed that it's the one. But if it's not, I have no qualms walking away from it. Unfortunately, somebody messaged me on Wanderlodge Owners Group last night and was like, or this morning was like, hey, I'm near Tallahassee. If you want to see my 35 that I got for sale, shoot me a message. I'm like, that would have been a nice project yesterday, maybe. Oh, sorry, snooze, lose. I scooted 500 miles away yesterday. And I pushed myself hard. I mean, I did not get into the hotel until 10:30 last night. So I was on the road for roughly 11 or 12 hours. Waze did not do me a favor. It did me dirty. I told it Sam's Club, and it routed me to Sam's Market, whatever the fuck that is. That cost me cheap pizza for dinner and cheap gas for the car. I ended up having to stop at, 19 Highway Robbery or whatever the fuck it was called. They're $3 a gallon gas, but I was running on fumes. The Prius was like, you have 10 miles remaining. Good luck. I'm like, uh-oh. I did get to go through Oak Ridge, so it was really cool. I saw the sign that said, security lanes here, and I'm like, ooh, I better not turn down that. That's not where I need to be. But it was really cool because Oak Ridge National Laboratory is where the glow-in-the-dark things happen in the United States. Really neat place. I wish I'd had time to check it out. I got to see I drove past the Bull Run plant on Tennessee Valley Authority. Again, really neat shit in that area of the world. East Tennessee is beautiful, beautiful place. And the people are pretty friendly there. I mean, overall, the people are real friendly. So anyway, this 32 foot or 31 or 33, whichever it is, I think it's a 33. So my idea is to transform a Wanderlodge into a 12 volt first coach. So what do I mean by 12 volt first? It means that there are no 120 volt lights inside the coach anywhere. Everything is LED 12 volt. The outlets would be fed by a sine wave inverter that is fed by a battery bank or by a generator. What I like about 31 and 33 is a lot of them had gas 10 kilowatt Kohler generators, so they don't hang down as low. But the Kohler is an unobtainium filled piece of shit. So eject that, put a $1,200 Harbor Freight inverter generator in. They run forever on the gas, and just set it up where you can refill the tank from the 30-gallon tank that's in the coach. Because they had a 30-gallon tank for the generator and I think a 150-gallon diesel tank. The beauty of the little inverter generators, they're cheap. They're really quiet. They've done a great job. If it dies, you're not out thousands and thousands. You're not paying the RV tax. Okay? Oh, you need an Onan. Well, you better bend over, because you're going to get banged by Onan and their dealers with their, quirky, difficult to maintain equipment that is just frankly not that reliable anymore and is really breathtakingly expensive. For only $12,000 you can get a 7 kilowatt generator that sounds like it's a Briggs & Stratton mower trapped in a I don't know what. They're just not that great. So anyway, lithium, a Life PO4 battery pack. So lithium iron oxide or iron phosphate oxide. The battery technology is really good. It'll take whatever charge you put into it, so you can quickly charge the batteries, shut the generator back down. And you can feed it with solar panels, and Wanderlodge has enough space on top that you can actually do I think you can get 3 to 4 panels up there. You put 4 400-watt panels or 3 400-watt panels, you're talking 1.2 to 1.6 kilowatts. You might get enough energy out of there to be meaningful. Now, the problem is you have rooftop window rattlers. 33 has 2 of them, 35 has 3 of them. But there's an opportunity there. So I think either moving to, you got to move to inverter-based generators. It's just a question of, are you going to go 12-volt native, or are you going to do 120-volt? Does the math work? Where does it work? If you get a unit with cruise airs, that would be awesome. You could do 12-volt mini splits. They sell them for the trucking space. They're inverter driven. They have stupid high 12-volt startup peak loads, but inverters typically ramp up and then ramp back down. So it shouldn't start at 1,000 watts. It just shouldn't. That's 80 amps. Okay, an inverter should start at a very modest load until it senses what the demand is, and then it should throttle up. But on my ACIQ unit, which is inverter driven, at the house, heating is the max draw. Cooling actually doesn't produce that much draw. I don't know why it's like that, but that's the way it works. And so I'd expect to see something similar in the 12-volt units. But if you can get a 500-watt load on an air conditioner, you have a solid chance of running it on a decent battery pack for, the night. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to balance out the ability to boondock in the national parks. They don't want generators running 24/7. You don't want to pay to run a generator 24/7 anyway. And so I think you can buy down the efficiency, and it opens up a lot of cheap camping if you can boondock in comfort. And if you are willing to eliminate the stupidity that came with these coaches, I think you can do that. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just think it's silly to have a household ice maker when you can do a countertop ice maker. Countertop ice maker is going to keep you in ice for your drinks. They're small. They're really easy to manage. The coach I looked at yesterday had a gas oven and a 4-burner cooktop, and then it had a Thermador convection oven up above that. Like size of a microwave, Thermador convection oven. Thermador is high dollar. I have no idea what these must have cost. Okay, I didn't even know Thermador was in the United States in the 1970s. This one had trash compactor they'd removed. You know what? All that stuff is nonsense. You're in a campground. Why do you need a trash compactor? Are you really that lazy? Really? No. Haul that 100-pound piece of crap out of there. You know, one of the things I is a little frustrating to me with Wanderlodge, like the doors were all 3/4 inch MDF. You know, that's a little bit heavy. No, it's a lot heavy. So I just think that there are better ways to do things. The suburban furnaces at this point, they're all 32,000 BTU furnaces, 2 or 3 of them in a unit. The heat exchangers are death factories at this point. You know, they're rusted out. Would you really sleep with a 40-year-old heater next to you, underneath you? Hell no. So I want to pull those out. They're power and propane hungry. I actually want to do a propane delete, and that's a great place for a battery bank. It's a great place for storage. I want to put the Chinese 12-volt heaters with a controller upgrade to manage them. And then, you know, what most of these used was a Raritan 15 or 20 gallon water heater, maybe 10 gallon. I don't know. It's a little Raritan heater. It has a loop for engine coolant so you can scavenge heat from the engine. That's awesome. And then it's 120 volt. So you're going to suck down 1,800 watts on hot water. That's great if you're in a park. But what I want to do is replace and relocate that. I think between the kitchen sink and the bathroom is the right place for your water heater. And I'm fine with electric on a switch so that it can be turned off when you're not in a campground. And then I would rather do a Webasto. And I actually have a Webasto laying around from the Argosy project. For whatever reason, I don't think I did not do videos of the Argosy, and honestly I should have, because that was a hell of a project. But shoulda, coulda, woulda. The net of it is that that I was going to put a little day tank in the Argosy and use the Webasto to drive like some air heat. The Chinese air heaters hadn't really come out yet. I don't remember if I have all the pieces of the Webasto, so it may be a shit show and I may be selling the parts off and buying the Chinese one. But basically it's a coolant heater. And so what I want to do is have some valves in there so I can either heat the coolant that's in the engine too, or just heat the water heater and call it a day. And that has, these are like, I think it's a 5 kilowatt is what the size of the Webasto is. That's a lot of heat. Diesel, it's not going to cost you squat in diesel to run it. So it's a really easy way to deal with it. What I would probably do is put in a little 1 or 2 gallon day tank somewhere up high so it can gravity feed, and then just have a little pump to pump diesel into it from the main tank and a little valve to drain it back out so you don't have any stale diesel, and you're just not going to use, they use 0.1 kiloliters an hour or something stupid like that, or 0.1 liters. A liter is essentially a quart. It's not quite, that's not really what it is, but they're really close. So you're talking about a fraction, just ounces of diesel. And they shouldn't run continuously, and they don't use a lot of 12 volt power. It's just running a little fan and a little sparker to get it going. So that should be a really good way to deal with that. There's a lot of times when you're camping that you can get by with a fantastic fan in the roof, maybe 1 or 2 of them. Open the windows, open the screens, and you're good to go. So I think there are a lot of opportunities to defluff and to optimize a Wanderlodge. I will absolutely remove whatever carpet is in there on the floor and replace it with vinyl plank flooring. Vinyl plank flooring is indestructible, waterproof. It's good stuff. So, and the things I'm worried about on these coaches is going to be rust. It's Ohio. They salt the roads here, I think. It snows here for sure. But, so I'm going to be worried about, rust on the body and on the frame. Water leaks. Not so much water leaks, I can build cabinets. The truck box project proved that to me. I wanted to do a deck system, but for my pest control truck, but when I bought the cap, the truck caps from ARE are stupid expensive. And by the way, their customer service sucks ass. So the truck caps are like, $5,000 and take 90 days to come in. And I was like, I don't think so. So I bought one used for $300. And it only had a single rear door, so I'd take tailgate off, sold tailgate for like $100. No big deal. But I wanted a deck system. Well, you can't put a deck system in with a single rear door. So I went ahead and built a plywood, I don't even know, organizer in the back. So I raised it up like with a 2x10, and that's where my ladder goes. And then I built little doors and little pockets. And to avoid putting screws into the truck bed, I refreshed the bed liner underneath it because, it's a Nissan, the paint's failing. And that worked really well, by the way. I used Custom Coat, which is basically Raptor Liner's cousin. So, at any rate, the on the left side of the truck bed, driver's side, I built a vertical shelf to hold my toolboxes using aluminum angle because I had it, and then I built some shelves and compartments to store my flow zone and its accessories, and then some shelves up top with some edging on the top. And it was kind of an experiment. The backbone of the shelf was 3/4 ply, but the rest of it was 1/2 inch, and the whole thing was 1/2 inch plywood. So it was an experiment to see, can I do lightweight construction? Will it stand up? It's worked beautifully. Beautifully. I used pocket screws and tight bond glue. I used whatever kind is waterproof for outside. I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It was in a green label. It worked great. I really believe that I can bring those same techniques to the Wanderlodge and get weight out of it. Almost all RVs are weight and balance challenged. So, again, these are some of the ideas that I have. The coach that I'm going to look at has 2 rear beds, and so and every one of these I've seen, they made the bed frame out of MDF. If there's something heavier that is a wood product, I don't know what it is. And there's a real relationship between every 100 pounds you add to a vehicle and the amount of fuel it consumes to move it around. And your axle weightings are going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 32,000, about 19,000 on the rear, and somewhere between 13 and 15 on the front, maybe as low as 10. That's just kind of standard axle ratings in the United States for heavy vehicles. So, do you really want to waste 1,000 pounds or 2,000 pounds on MDF if you can do it with something that's lighter and thinner? I don't. The older Wanderlodges used a lot of plywood, so I remember in the video that Andrew took, he commented that it was a simpler design. It just literally had some exposed plywood, which I actually like. I just don't think that's a big deal. I'm not trying to create Hilton on wheels. Been there, done that. Not very impressed with it. I'm trying to create base camp that I can go and do expedition type camping in the national parks without paying $80 a night to pavedparkinglotresorts.com. I'm sorry, if your definition of camping is a Walmart parking lot with landscape, then all the more power to you, but I get that shit at my neighborhood. What's the point? I really don't want to be 5 feet from other people if I'm camping. That's kind of defeats the purpose. That's tailgating. And a lot of these resort campgrounds, really not anywhere you want to hang out. I mean, it's like an HOA meeting. Why? No. So I would much rather, like Galveston Island State Park's one of the places I want to go. The no hookup camping is dirt cheap. It's right there on the beach. That'd be great. They have some resorts on Galveston Island. They're $100 a night for your RV. I'm like, so you're charging me a hotel room for a parking spot. Fuck off. And it comes with, 3 pages of rules. Oh, your RV isn't shiny enough. Bitch, my RV costs more than your fucking house. Get lost. Maybe not today. Maybe not an old Wanderlodge, but let's be real. Most homes aren't that well built. They're really not. That's a whole other conversation. So, anyway, that's kind of it for this morning. Hope you've enjoyed this chat. Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, this is kind of a new idea for me to do these chats. I will try to video the walkthrough all 4 coaches. Again, I'm hoping that this small coach works. I need to be able to put batteries in it, revive the engine, put tires on it, and drive it home. If I have to deal with belts or hoses, I can tolerate that, but not, it can't be, it needs a radiator, and it just can't turn into major mechanical for me to buy the coach. It's too far away. What I really want to do is be able to get this coach on the road tomorrow and rent a U-Haul dolly for $400 and never come back up here again. That is actually the Hail Mary. Don't think we'll get that lucky. If we do, you'll see it in the video, and that'll be an awesome thing. But that's the program. Is I'm going to evaluate this coach and decide if I want to buy it, and if I don't want the small one, I'll look at the 35 while I'm there and see if we can agree on a number. I think they want a little bit much for the 35, and I remember seeing some water damage. I'm not going to pay top dollar for water damage. It's not happening. These buses have been for sale for a while, like at least 2 years. And what I would tell you is, you're looking for a Wanderlodge, you need to dig. And you need to learn as much as you possibly can and decide what you want to deal with. You know what? I'll continue to talk about this. So, an old coach has old systems, and none of this shit is cheap. It's all commercial, heavy-duty stuff. It's all breathtakingly expensive to replace. It's all expensive to work on. Some of it, you really do need special tools and special talents, like rebuilding a diesel engine. Yeah, you're the injector pump, you're definitely going to have to send that out. That requires very, very sophisticated tooling to calibrate a injector pump. It's not a DIY project. Pulling an engine or transmission, that you need heavy duty shit for that. Maybe I could do it in my garage, but God, it'd be a lot easier to pay somebody else to do. So you want to think carefully about what systems you want to own and maintain. Turbo sounds cool. Oh yeah, it's more power. It lets you go up hills faster. How much time do you spend going up hills? Really? I mean, if you live in Colorado and you camp on the top of the mountain, okay, that's a big deal to you. And turbo does make a difference there. If, on the other hand, you live in the South, where it's flat, you don't deal with hills very often, you might be willing to tolerate the hills in return for less complexity, because you need to check your turbo annually. CAT says every 1,200 hours, which they mean to be once a year. And if your turbo goes bad, they can go apart and inject a whole bunch of pieces into your engine. That's not likely, but they also can leak oil, and you can get a runaway condition. Your diesel will run on atomized engine oil just fine. It ain't picky. And so, to me, turbo's a liability on an old coach where I'm trying to make it affordable to own. Airbag suspension. Oh yeah, it's a smoother ride. It absolutely is. But the airbags are, several $100s a piece. What do we miss? Several $100? $600, $800 an airbag, plus labor if you can't change them yourself. And there are tubes down there, and there are valves, and all this crap wears out after 40, 50 years, 30 years. So depending on the age of the coach, it's 30, 50 years old. All that stuff is a liability. If you lose air suspension when you're on the road, you may not be able to get your jacks down. You may not. You're going to have to call a mobile mechanic, and now you're going to pay top dollar for plastic tubing. And if you better have CoachNet, because that'll pay for the mobile mechanic. But gosh, you got to know exactly why you're stuck, because you can't call for the mobile mechanic and then call for a tow. No, you only get one get out of jail free card. So really, you have to have multiple. Use AAA and Good Sam and CoachNet. So maybe you think you got dead batteries, you call for a mobile mechanic or you call for a battery jump with AAA. That's awesome. And then you are, that's not it. So now you need a mobile mechanic. You call for a mobile mechanic with Good Sam. If you need a tow, you call CoachNet. Unless you know exactly why. If you run out of fuel, okay, yeah, maybe you call for fuel. I don't know what 5 gallons is going to do you in a 150-gallon tank, but yeah, you can call for it. So, you want to minimize the number of perils that you're up against, because they're all expensive. And you really should have a reserve fund. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in an unpleasant place if you break down. Yeah, AAA will send somebody to change your tire, but they ain't giving you the tire. You're going to have to buy one of those. And you may not be able to get a used tire at that point. They're expensive. I expect whatever I buy is going to need tires, so I'm planning to do a couple of Chinese or Vietnamese tires in the front. It's an economy choice. They'll work. You're just not going to run them past 7 years. And some takeoffs in the rear. And again, it's a economy choice to keep the coach affordable. I need to be able to get it home for a minimum amount of money until maybe I'll put new tires on it next year, but for now, it's get it home. So, anyway, that's kind of it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.